Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcasting YouTube channel. For today's episode, we're going to be doing our second round of the trade proposal mailbag. So part 2 right here. So let's get it going. If you guys have not seen the first part, it's about 30-minute episode. We go through a bunch of stuff. It was posted yesterday, so make sure to go back and check that one before you watch this one. But to continue, all the proposals that you guys sent, I have 2 from Mello on Twitter here. So Mello's first trade is Grisham, Myers, Reese Kinnear to the Rangers for Adolis Garcia, Cole Calhoun, and Dennis Santana. And then Melo's second trade is Joshua Mears, $30 million cash to the Marlins for Jesus Aguilar and Stephen Okert. Isaac, how are you feeling about each of these trades?
Grish, Myers, and Kinnear for Adolis Garcia, Cole Calhoun, and Dennis Santana. Tough. Because I mean, I kind of like the idea of just adding Garcia just because he does hit for power. He's essentially a little better this year than Luke Voigt. He has 15 home runs. If that sounded like 50, I'm sorry. 15 home runs with like a 745 or 750 OPS, whereas Voigt is around 730 or 740 and 10 home runs. So a little more power in that aspect. Of course, that's somebody that you want in the lineup, especially for the Padres. I don't quite remember which position Garcia plays for sure, but I mean, obviously an outfielder in general would help. Cole Calhoun, what a guy. Not someone I want, but Dennis Santana's had himself a really good year. For those of you who don't remember Dennis Santana, there's music playing in the background. I hope you guys can't hear it. Dennis Santana is someone who last year almost got in a little spat with Jorge Mateo, and that's how I remember him. That's what I said before this. I said, "Oh man, I don't want him," right? Just because from recency bias, just showing that he sucked, or like we saw last year with the Dodgers, he sucked. Recently, he's pitched really well. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but recently he has pitched very well, and I don't remember how hard he throws, but I feel like it was pretty hard. And the Padres are in need of a bullpen arm. Apparently, Craig Stammen might not come back. Take that how you want, but obviously this Padres team is getting more and more in need of arms by the day. You see the bullpen is like below 10th in ERA in the past, what is it, 7 to 10 games, something like that. So the Padres are definitely in need of some arms, and hopefully they can acquire somebody like Santana, somebody like Robertson. In terms of this trade, it's basically it's a salary dump of Will Myers. Of course, it's what you need to do, but you also get a good player, so it's not the worst trade in the world. It's just not one that I'm in huge favor of.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. I don't think it's like, I think it kind of is an upgrade, but I don't know how much. I don't know, like, if this trade goes through and then Trent Grisham has like a great second half, it could look really bad for you. So that's kind of the problem there. Also, Will Myers, Adolis Garcia, it could be kind of close there. So I would probably pass on it, but I do like the idea of it. I don't think it's a bad move. And then his second trade was Hosmer, Weathers, Mears. You give $30 million to the Marlins for Jesus Aguilar and Stephen Okert. I like the idea with it. I think you're eating a lot of Hosmer's contract though, and I don't really think it's worth it in this case. Though I do like Jesus Aguilar. I do think that's a solid guy to add. Do you like that one, or do you think it's a little bit too? I mean, you're not really giving up too much. You're just barely losing any of Hosmer deals, so it's like kind of DFAing him. I just don't think that the Marlins would be too interested though, honestly.
No, I feel like the Marlins could actually be a decent team here soon. I mean, I don't know what the standings look like right now. I'll check, but I mean, they got some pretty good building blocks. I guess 2 good prospects, and damn, I forgot their name. Something like Meyer, something like that, and somebody else. But I'm checking the standings right now. Obviously, they got Jazz Chisholm and Sandy Alcantara. They got some really good guys. So I feel like them taking on Hosmer doesn't really make much sense. Also, Aguilar, what'd you say? He's like on a 1-year deal. It would essentially be just for the rest of the year. I mean, they're essentially, I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. I think they know they won't make the playoffs also. So it's essentially like, we'll just keep Aguilar. We'll finish out the rest of the season and then go get a different first baseman. I don't think they want to be stuck with Hosmer as their first baseman for the next 3 years. Now, of course, we're eating, what is it, 30 million? I just don't think this makes much sense. I'd rather not do it.
Yeah, I just don't think and I don't think the Marlins would accept. I don't think it's a bad deal by any means, but I just don't think it's quite what the Padres would kind of be what you'd want to do in a Hosmer deal. I guess you want to get rid of Hosmer though. If you really want to get rid of Hosmer, then yeah, you do it. But I don't know how much this is truly going to help you. I guess I'd say. Um, Next one I have is from Devin the Dude. Padres get Brian Reynolds, David Bednar. The Pirates get Trent Grisham, Robert Hassel, Ryan Weathers, and Jackson Merrill. I don't think they would accept this. One, Bednar, who he's a former Padre, right? I swear he's
Yes.
a former Padre. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And he's had a great year. He has a lot of control. Both those two guys have a lot of control. They're not expensive. They're kind of the guys that the Pirates want to build around. The Pirates are actually kind of becoming a little bit decent, believe it or not,
Yes.
kind of weird.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if they really want to. I don't think it's a bad deal. I really don't. I think this is actually a really solid deal. And for what the Padres should probably offer the Pirates, I think that's pretty good. But I think it's going to take. You're giving up a lot there. You're giving up Grisham and Hassel and Weathers and Merrill. Like that's a good amount of players. I think that alone maybe gets you Reynolds.
Yes,
And
I
I
was gonna say that.
and I feel like honestly the way that people have been taught or like the way that people have talked about the value of Reynolds, it might not even be enough. Not that it shouldn't be enough, but it just might not get it done, which is a little bit frustrating because I do think that's enough to get that deal done. But I like the idea a lot, but I just don't think the Pirates are going to accept it. And I'm becoming, I just don't think Reynolds is going to get traded ultimately.
I don't think so either. This deal alone might get you Brian Reynolds, just Brian Reynolds. It definitely does not land you David Bednar, though I will say if they were to trade either of the two, it should be Bednar because of how volatile, um, how volatile, whatever you guys, however you guys say it, I don't know, um, how volatile those guys, how volatile relievers are in general. Although he does have control, I mean, relievers are essentially like you can get a good haul out of David Bednar with how he's performing right now. But what I will say, this deal alone gets you Brian Reynolds, maybe. Um, what we saw today is we saw that, uh, damn, what team was it? It was the Mariners. The Mariners, the deal for Brian Reynolds alone started with Julio Rodriguez, one of the best center fielders in baseball right now, essentially the Mariners version of Fernando Tatis. Um, that is a huge asking price, which translated to the Padres, it's going to have to start with CJ Abrams. And if it doesn't start with CJ Abrams, it most definitely starts with Robert Hassel. Now, I don't mind, I might be part of the minority here, but I don't mind losing Robert Hassel and Trent Grisham if that gets you years of control from Brian Reynolds. I think this deal could get it done potentially, but the Pirates are going to be a good team, hopefully soon. They could be a good team, and that's a guy they're going to want to build around. That is a very good player to build around. Him and O'Neal Cruz, Brian Hayes. There's going to be good players for them to build around. And I mean, obviously, they don't really have a lot of fans that come to the ballpark now, but those are the guys that generate their revenue right now.
Don't forget their other building block, Tucupita Marcano. Maybe not a building block, but you got to root for Marcano. Okay, Devin also had another trade, and I like this one too. So in this one, he has Padres get Ian Happ and David Robertson. The Cubs get Trent Grisham, Eric Hosmer, Luis Campusano, and Jackson Merrill. So we had talked about a similar deal here. I think the only difference is we didn't include David Robertson. We didn't include Jackson Merrill, but I kind of like this deal. I don't know how much I want David Robertson, but if the Padres are going to go try to add a righty bullpen arm, David Robertson's a really solid buy low option. So what do you think about that one?
I like that one. I actually think you might only have to throw in a little bit of money to be able to get rid of Hosmer in that one. Maybe not any, just because Grisham is very high valued prospect. Campusano, I mean, the Cubs have wanted Campusano before. And then, of course, Jackson Merrill, very, very young, a lot of talent, a lot of upside. That deal, it might be able to get done. And it makes a lot of sense for the Padres considering you need a center fielder. Um, of course, you're getting rid of a center fielder with a Gold Glove caliber center fielder, but he's not performing for you at the plate right now. If this is going to be a team that wins this year, he cannot have all these opportunities at the plate. It's got to be somebody like Ian Happ, and then of course, talking about Craig Stamina earlier, you might need an arm. David Robertson has had himself a solid year. Hopefully, this isn't another Daniel Hudson type situation where they come to the Padres and are essentially one of the worst arms in baseball, or at least one of the worst arms in the Padres bullpen. It actually makes a lot of sense, though. That is probably one of the deals that makes the most sense out of all the ones that were sent to us.
Yeah, and then also to kind of play off that one a little bit, just because to like stay with this conversation, Luta Bone said, okay, Grisham for Hap, that was his. So it's similar because I'm looking at this one, and this is kind of how I'd break down this deal. So Grisham for Hap, right? That's kind of where I see this one starting, and then you're basically adding in. I lost it. Where is it? Okay, you're basically adding in. You're trading Eric Hosmer. You might have to eat a little bit of his money, but you're sending them Campy to eat Hosmer's deal. And then Merrill's also involved to kind of like get you over the hump with into that deal. So I think both of those make sense. I think kind of basing the deal just in terms of like Grisham for Hap, and then you add those other factors in, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think that a Padres Cubs deal outside of the other one that we talked about with the Yankees, a Gallo deal in some sorts, because it does seem like that is somewhat on the horizon, I want to say. Um, I think those are the two teams right now that I feel the most confident in a deal getting worked out for the Padres. So I do like that one a lot for both of those. Moving on, Michael Montez, he has two deals that he sent in. So the first one is Grisham, Mears, Hosmer, and Campy for Bell. It's a little rich for Bell, but it does make sense. I mean, it's similar, Hosmer and Campy, and then you're trading Grisham and Mears for Bell. I still think that's a lot for Bell because Grisham has a ton of control and Bell's on a 1 year deal. Maybe that's the price for Bell. I don't know if I want to go that high for Bell because also then you're going to also need to go get another outfielder. So it makes things a little bit complicated for you. Maybe if you have another deal on the table. But then his second one here is Hassel, Morahode, and another lower prospect for Reynolds. And then he also said to add in Merrill to that second trade. So Hassel, Morahone, Merrill, and another prospect, another like lower end top end prospect for. I just don't think he's going to get moved. It's a pretty similar like deal though, but I don't know. I think that for Bell, maybe if we're underestimating Bell's value, that could be what it ends up costing to go get Josh Bell.
I actually kind of find it funny. You said Hosmer's in this one, right? I actually kind of find it funny. So many people are including Hosmer when I think it'd be a lot cheaper to get rid of Will. And I mean, yeah, you need outfield. Essentially, maybe getting rid of an outfielder is not a good idea, but um, and maybe one of the caliber of Will Myers, who generally performs to his career averages around 750 OPS, doesn't provide a lot of home runs, but 750 OPS, decent average hitter, decent glove. Like maybe it's not a good idea to get rid of a person like him, a player like him. In terms of Grisham, yes, it's fine to get rid of Grisham at this point. But I think if you throw in Myers in this deal, you would have to give up less because to get rid of Haas, I do think you're gonna have to attach somebody like Grisham or somebody like Hassel. I think that's probably going to be the bare minimum if you don't want to eat a lot of money. If you're willing to eat a lot of money, maybe a little less, maybe just Campusano and you have to eat 20, 30 mil, something like that. But I also don't think he's going to get moved. I also think it's going to be one of the hardest things to do to move Eric Hosmer. I think he's going to be a Padre for another couple years. But in terms of getting Josh Bell, we keep talking about Josh Bell. I mean, I love the idea of getting Josh Bell, man. That's a huge upgrade, not only at the plate, but at first base also. You want to keep Eric Hosmer, and I don't know how they're still Hosmer truthers. You want to keep Eric Hosmer off the field as much as possible. It is every single game that this dude has a weird play that you're thinking, how is this guy a major league first baseman? How did this happen? How did this guy sign a big fat extension with the Padres? Now you could go look at his last season with the Royals and say he was great, but these past 3 seasons he's been horrible. I'm like stunned he hasn't been traded. Like I thought AJ Preller would unload the farm to trade him. I'm very happy he hasn't, but yeah, I mean I think he's gonna be a Padre. But in terms of this deal alone, I think it's a little rich also. I think it might be a little too much, but I think this is around the framework that it would take to get rid of Eric Hosmer.
Yeah, I also am with you. Like, I think it makes way more sense to move Myers or even move someone else. Even move. I don't want to move Nick Martinez, but maybe move Nick Martinez. I don't know, dude. I just don't think you're gonna see Hosmer get moved. I think you're way more likely to see Eric Hosmer. Sorry, I think motorcycles coming through. I think you're way more likely to see Myers get moved, or you're way more likely to see the Padres get rid of Hosmer next season in like a DFA type deal because his rights kick in, they can't really trade him. I don't think you're going to see Eric Hosmer get traded this deadline. I think it's Yeah, I'd like to see it happen. I think it's like next to the impossible to actually see that go down. But I do think a lot of these trades for like what we've kind of thought it would take to get rid of him, I think it makes sense. But then of course the other factor is how much money is that going to cost? So a few more deals here. Um, Kirk Kern, he has one. He says, "How about we swing for the fences?" So we got a fun one. This one is for Shohei Ohtani. So in this one, he says you're going to give up Gore, Kim, and Campusano, or swap out Abrams for Kim to make it more rich. So Gore, Abrams, Campusano for Ohtani. I don't think it's enough, and I don't think it's worth it to trade for Shohei Ohtani, believe it or not. I just think it's going to cost so much. It is going to be like the most ridiculous amount. You might as well just go and try to trade for Mike Trout. That's my thought on it, because they're probably going to ask for even more for Shohei. So I don't know. If you're really trying to win, you can always go for Shohei, though. I mean, if you're really trying to win, he is a cheap guy that you could go make the massive move for, but you're giving up a lot. Gore, Abrams, Campy, I'll do it. I'll do it quick for that deal, but I don't think that I think that's a quick hang up for the Angels, and I think it's gonna cost a lot more to go and try to acquire him.
This is the biggest win now move of all the trades. The biggest, easily by far, because you're getting rid of potentially what everyone thinks, and me, including myself, the ace of the future, and either the second baseman, the right fielder, the center fielder, essentially the utility player, the top prospect of from our organization. That guy, C.J. Abrams, a what was he, like a top 6 prospect at one point, a top 5 prospect at one point, something like that. It's crazy because from a Padres perspective, it is so much to give up, but from the Angels perspective, it might not even be enough. Um, I don't know. I think you're more likely to see the Padres try and sign him in free agency next year, after next year. But yeah, this is a huge win now move. And you know, when you're looking at it from this standpoint, it's like, okay, so yeah, Gore is not going to be in the rotation, and okay, I'll say this: Gore should skip 2 or 3 starts. For anyone who watched the past recap, whatever it is, Gore should skip 2 or 3 starts because fastball velo's down. I think he's a little fatigued. I think he should work on his mechanics and finally start trying to get his stuff more incorporated into his outings. But you replace Gore with Ohtani, and now you're looking like the most dangerous team in baseball. And then now you get a guy at the plate. He's not complete. What was he, a right fielder before? Shohei Ohtani. You're not going to get him in the outfield because he pitches. So you're going to have to DH him. And what are you going to do with Luke Voigt? You're probably going to put him at first. What are you going to do with Eric Hosmer? That's just going to be the most expensive bench piece in all of baseball. Now, you might have to throw in another prospect, but I also don't think that our prospect should be allocated to Shohei Ohtani. Of course, this is a swing for the fences move that you want to win right now, but these resources should all be spread out rather than placed into one person. Not Abrams, though. Not Abrams or Gore. Definitely not.
That's why I think it hurts you, because then like all of a sudden you don't have any cheap contracts. That's my thought. It's like, and it's gonna be really hard to build a team from a roster standpoint. If you want to go try to sign him in free agency, if you're gonna free up some money, yeah. But that also probably means you don't have Joe Musgrove on this team. So it's like if you miss Joe Musgrove, you don't re-sign him next year, and then you go. I don't know. It's very complicated to get Shohei Ohtani on your team, and it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost like $50 million to go try to get Shohei Ohtani per year. So it might cost like way more than it's actually worth, just because I know it's hard to say that, dude. It's really hard to say that because he's so great. He is so incredible, but it's going to be hard just from a team building standpoint. So going through, looking at some other ones, I mean, a lot of these we've kind of gone through like almost the exact same deal, like literally the exact same deal. So I'm looking through. I see like a Gallo for Will Plus. I see Myers for Gallo. We talked about both these in the last one. I just said the exact same deal. You also see, sorry, a Hosmer, Grisham, Campusano, and Snell for Contreras and Happ. I think we already talked about that exact same deal. Another Ian Happ one. I see Ian Happ and Wilson Contreras for Luis Campusano and Ryan Weathers. I don't think that's going to get it done. Givens from the Cubs for Lamet and a lottery ticket prospect. That's another one I have. I don't know. Anything else you want to comment on these? I do have 2 other trades that are similar to the Ohtani trades to finish it off. But anything else you want to comment on any of those ones?
No, I mean, I'm glad that we're all kind of in a consensus on who the Padres should be targeting. Also, important to remember for anyone, that comments on a different type of trade, mailbag, something like that, look into guys that don't think AJ Preller is going to be in on, because the odds are he's in on them. Like the surprise guys, like Manaya. I forgot some of the other guys, but like Manaya, like Snell, guys like that, because he does tend to pull out those type of trades. Um, Nothing else though. I mean, like I said, I'm glad we're all kind of in a consensus about who we should be going after. Ian Happ, Joey Gallo, Wilson Contreras. I don't think we all want Wilson Contreras, but a lot of you guys do want Wilson Contreras. Completely understand. Catcher is a worrisome position for the Padres. Not because of a guy like Jorge Alfaro. He's great, but recent injuries to him and lack of plate production from Austin Nola does make sense for the Padres to try and acquire a catcher. It just doesn't make sense for it to be Wilson Contreras, though there's no other catchers on the market. Um, yeah. Oh God, are you talking about the Juan Soto one?
Yeah. First thing I will say, the Givens for the Cubs trade, I don't think that deal would make sense just because Lamet's been batted. Michael Givens has been pretty good, but Michael Givens is a pretty solid guy too. If you don't end up going for a David Robertson type and like a Ian Happ deal, I do really like that we're seeing so many deals with the Cubs though, because I do think that's like I think the Cubs and the Yankees. I think I said this earlier. Those are the two teams I think that are the most likely to trade with the Padres. So I do like seeing all the Cubs stuff there. Just kind of wonder what the deal will actually be when it comes out. And if you go and get a reliever, is it a reliever on the Cubs? Is it Givens? Is it Robertson? I think each of those guys could be an option. So yeah, let's finish it off with these two Juan Soto offers. So there's two of them. First one, Campy, Abrams, Hassel, and Gore for Juan Soto. I'll tell you the second one because the second one is an easy no. Hosmer and Abrams for Soto. That's a given. That's a no. But Campy, Abrams, Hassel, Gore for Juan Soto. I do not think there's a chance that Juan Soto gets traded. I think the National. Yes, have I told you this before? I do think they should actually trade Juan Soto. I think it makes more sense. I think Juan Soto is going to walk, or they're going to trade him, and it's going to be a Manny Machado Orioles type situation where they do not get everything for him. I don't know why they don't trade him. I mean, I guess I do. You look at how he plays; he's phenomenal. But I don't think he has any interest in playing there, and I think it makes sense for them to trade him for everything. Is this enough though? Is Campy, Abrams, Hassel, Gore for Juan Soto enough?
If it's not, then I don't want it. um, yeah, it doesn't make. I also don't think it makes much sense for the Nationals to hold on to him. Just like the Angels with Otani and Trout, I don't think it makes sense to hold on to him. But it's funny how these MLB teams work, man. Like, of course, they want their revenue. That's their whole revenue. Yeah, Juan Soto's the revenue. Otani and Trout is their revenue. Um, yeah, so that's why it's kind of hard or even like Brian Reynolds. That is also the Pirates' revenue. So it's very hard to make these kind of trades because these guys get the teams their money. Especially for Otani, like for the Angels, it's either keep that big ginormous market out in, what is it, Japan? I think it's Japan. Keep that ginormous market or ship it off to somewhere else where that team will get the market and get a bunch of money. Essentially, you're getting a bunch of money from that Japanese market because of Shohei Otani. Um, or you can trade him, get a haul of prospects, and actually be good. Actually, like maybe be good for once. Um, there's a potential for that also, but I do think that should be enough for Juan Soto. Maybe like a throw-in prospect, something like that. But it seems like the Nationals are kind of all in on trying to extend him. I know I heard that Juan Soto had declined a contractor extension or two, but the Nationals are clearly intent on trying to bring him back. So it doesn't seem like they'll want to trade him.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not enough, I don't know what else you're gonna be able to offer him. But I don't think they're gonna trade him. I think they're gonna sit. And like I said, I don't really think it makes much sense for the Nationals. But I mean, you bring up that's the guy that sells tickets for him. So I think that is why you see it. But I just don't think he's gonna end up playing there his whole career. And I think you're gonna end up seeing them trade him for significantly less than what they could get for him now. Where the Nationals came out, and they publicly said Juan Soto's on the market. every single team would try to trade for him pretty much. Every single team that's contending would try to trade for him, and they would offer way more than it's worth for two reasons. One, you're getting a sweet player. Second thing is you just brought up Isaac. Your team's gonna make a lot of money off having Juan Soto. Um, Send in an offer for Juan Soto. I'm not against it. Send in that offer, but I just don't think they're gonna end up like really looking into a deal like that. But I think that's probably gonna do it for today's episode. So thank you guys for listening. But we're gonna have to do some more of these mailbags. I don't know if we're gonna do trade ones, but super fun to go over some of these. Some of them realistic, some of them not that realistic, but a lot of them are pretty solid and like they start with something where maybe you need a little bit more. Maybe the other team is gonna not really want to trade a guy, but a lot of them do make sense and like they're not just like super random. So I think it's gonna do it for today's episode. But thank you guys all for listening. And we'll be back with an episode tomorrow. And then I think Thursday we'll be doing a recap on the Padres Rockies series. So thank you guys for listening. It's getting loud. There's cars driving around. But we'll talk to you guys very, very soon.